Hello, this is Jeff Rocca, the Canny Financier. Now, I promised you some practice CFA questions, and here's one that caught my eye recently. You have a bond that pays 0 interest for 4 years and 8% interest for the next 4 years, at which point it matures, that is currently selling at 87. And is its yield to maturity closest to 6%, 8%, or 10%? And the person asking said, is there an easy way to do this on your calculator? Yes, there is. Oh, you actually wanted me to tell you the way. Well, I think what was throwing the questioner off was the 4 years of missed interest payments. But if your cash flow is 0 for a given period, then your calculator will accept the input of 0. So the cash flows in question are minus 87, 0, 0, 0, 0, 8, 8, 8, 108. And if you calculate the internal rate of return for that, you get 5.6%, so it's A. And if you do it in Excel, you'll get exactly 6% unless you expand the decimal places, and so there are more than 2, which you really should be doing. Now, I know yield to maturity all went out with the slide rule and all the cool kids are using option-adjusted spread, but it's still a useful thing to learn, and it is on the curriculum. But what if I told you there was a way to solve this problem without using your calculator, just by using your number sense? Because performing quick and accurate calculations on the calculator are all well and good, but I've always been more impressed by people who can do quick and useful calculations just on the quick back of the envelope. And fortunately, we get a lot of junk mail, so I am always well supplied with backs of envelopes. Now the trick here is to ask ourselves what's going to happen in 4 years when this becomes a normal bond. And to do that, we simply have to compute the forward price, which is the current price, compounded at the appropriate rate. And what is the appropriate rate? Well, if you use yield to maturity, it means the yield curve you're assuming to be completely flat. So the rate you want to use is just the rate given in each answer choice. If that doesn't make sense, just rewind and watch this bit again until it does. So let's start with the 10% first. I know that 1.1 to the fourth equals 1.4641, but that's a difficult number to work with, so let's just call it about 1.45. 0.87 times 0.45, well, 0.87 times 0.5 is 0.435, and subtract 10% of that, you get just about 0.39, and 0.87 plus 0.39 is 1.26. So, does that make sense? Does it make sense that if the prevailing interest rate is 10%, that an 8% bond would trade at a premium? No, if the prevailing interest rate is 10%, then an 8% bond would trade at a discount, so clearly it cannot be option C. Now let's consider option B, 0.8%. I don't actually know what 1.08 to the fourth is, but I know that 4 times 0.8 is 32, so let's just round that up to 1/3 to make the math easier. 1/3 of 0.87 is 0.29, and 0.87 plus 0.29 is 1.16. Again, does that make sense? Does it make sense that if interest rates are 8%, then an 8% bond would trade at a premium? No. An 8% bond would trade exactly at par, and you may want to keep that in mind for your future endeavors. If interest rates are the same as the coupon rate of the bond will trade at par, and its yield to maturity will be equal to its coupon yield. Try and keep that in mind. It may come up later. And finally, let us consider 0.06. Now, again, I don't know off the top of my head what 1.06 to the fourth is, but I know it's just about 1.25, or 1/4. And for the sake of convenience, let's say that 1/4 of 0.87 is roughly 0.22, which gives us a price of 109. Now, does this one make sense? If interest rates are 6%, would an 8% bond trade at a premium? Yes, it would, because it pays interest rates that are higher than the market rates. And so clearly we can conclude that the answer is A without even picking up a calculator. So I hope you enjoyed that. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this, or more content not like this. I'm very flexible. So hope to see you again soon, and remember, you can't spell finance without fun. Although you will have a U left over at the end.